Good morning. So it's been a few days since I last videoed. The garden's looking like it's coming slowly to life. And this morning we're going to go sort out the cacophony of things going wrong here. So seedlings and the plants that I transplanted. I need to brush this area. Apologies in advance. But under here we have a long-term project. So I'm going to take the plastic off and I'm going to show you what's under here. So what we've got here are sempervivums, commonly known as house leeks. So the reason I've got so many is because I decided that for my wedding I would use these as centerpieces. I've got about 30 different varieties and I had to overwinter them last winter. They just about flourished by the autumn for our wedding, and then I've had to overwinter them again. However, I did have an issue with these that I think that they got some kind of like weaver, beetle larva or something like that in them, and so some of them have died because of that. Some of them have dried out. I had them covered in plastic to try and keep the frost off them because they'd mainly been kept indoors, so they're not as hardy as the ones in my garden, but normally should be quite hardy. Luckily I've got these trays here of spares and I've got some growing in my garden that should hopefully be able to fill in the gaps in here. So I'm going to show you what my plan is for their setup and then hopefully it will look quite good, fingers crossed. So sempervivums do best in really sunny conditions. So I have this kind of metalwork thing. This is another freebie. It was found in the garden when we moved in. Originally it's meant to be a water feature. It has lost the structure at the top. So you'll see when I put it together that it doesn't quite look right. But maybe I can find something to put there as a replacement. I've moved it to this quite sunny spot. You can see it'll get sun all day. So hopefully they'll really thrive here. They'll get nice and warm and grow really well. With the magic of technology, you'll see how it should look. These are the bits that we still had remaining, and the one at the top you can see has really flourished over the winter. I have a feeling looking at it, it might have got a bit more moisture. I'd hoped under the plastic, the transpiration of the plants produces quite a lot of water vapour, so I'd hope that they kind of have their own little mini atmosphere going on there. It doesn't seem that's been the case. So those ones have survived really well. And these ones haven't. However, I do have some that I can put in there, so I'm going to have a quick look through those in a second. One at the bottom is kind of a mixed bag. Some have done really well, some haven't. I might give them a couple of days and see which ones flourish. I have another planter as well, which I'm going to come and put in this gap here. Now, I said I would talk to you about the compost we use. So they really like free draining compost. So this is actually a mixture of compost with vermiculite, or it could be percolite, and that's the kind of white stuff you can see like this. It's really light. Now the issue with that is that it just needs a breeze and it goes everywhere. I'm going to put some gravel over the top, which would hopefully hold the vermiculite in place, and it will mean that when I water them, this white stuff doesn't go everywhere. Should help also keep some moisture under the surface. So I've covered them in this thin layer of gravel, which should hopefully stop the percolite or vermiculite, can't remember which one I used, from floating away. And I just need to water them, and I'll give you an update maybe 2-3 days time as to how they're doing. These are sempervivums growing in my garden, and as you can see, they do really well in rock crevices. Some have died off over the winter, but these ones have just been left out during the winter and done really, really well. I'm hopeful the container ones will look as healthy as these in a couple of weeks' time. I absolutely adore my little watering can. It's so cute. Okay, for those that are really interested and stayed watching, a little bit more information about the soil and sempervivums. So sempervivums are a succulent. They retain water when water is available, but they generally do really well in arid conditions, which is why, in particular, they do well in like rocky outcrops and things like that. And I am going to probably do something with these two larger ones in the future to make them a little bit more exciting, maybe put some rocks on them, like a little mini rockery. Vermiculite comes from volcanic rocks, I think, and maybe percolite does as well, but they're very light rocks. They almost feel like styrofoam. They have lots of little air pockets in them, which means that they retain water, but their large particulate size means that water flows through them very, very quickly. So although water is retained in the actual rock, it isn't in the soil around it. And that's really quite important because we don't want the roots to be sat in water for long periods of time, and then it can release the water later. Science osmosis means that water will slowly move out of those rocks. You can buy quite expensive compost like this one, and I did get this for some indoor succulents. This contains a very similar rock. It says it's got ceramis, which I think is a little bit more, it's not as ghastly looking as percolite and vermiculite. I think maybe this is percolite. One of them is bright white, and the other one is like browny crystals. So this ceramis, I'm not sure whether it's a naturally occurring rock or not, but it's kind of terracotta in colour, which is much more like soil colour. This is also got grit and sand in. Now this is quite an expensive way of buying it. When I did these for my wedding, I didn't buy this compost to begin with. I used it a little bit towards the end. You can buy vermiculite and percolite quite cheaply at your average garden centre, and then I think it was 30% vermiculite or percolite, 30% sand to again increase. It's unusual to think about this, that sand actually has quite a large particulate size, you can feel it, and then 30% soil. And the larger the particles that you put in there, the more gaps there are in between the soil, which allows the water to flow through more freely, meaning it more free draining, meaning it recreates the kind of environments that sempervivums, cacti and other succulents have come from. That's where they're adapted to. It's really important you don't overwater a succulent, because that's not what they're used to, and what can sometimes happen is they can rot from the bottom. That is partly why you need these free draining composts, to make sure that they have similar conditions to where they'd be found normally. So I mentioned about these little borer, horrible little caterpillar things. I don't know quite what they are. I've tried to research them. I think they're some form of weevil, and you only really find out you've got them once the sempervivum has died. But there is evidence here of what they look like once it's too late. So sometimes they start to die, and then I can find the actual little weevil inside, and I've spent many a session getting the little weevils out and disposing of any that were infected. But this one I obviously missed, and you can see in the middle of it, it's got a big hole, and that hole is where the weevil has bored its way out of the sempervivum, killing it. So, and there's probably another one there as well. So that's why partly I'm going to leave these for a few days, see how they're doing, see how many recover before I transplant them, because it might be that the weevils are in this compost and not in any of the others. Fingers crossed. Anyway, I'll update you and show you at the end of this video what this looks like in a few days' time, and then probably in another video later I'll show you which of these ones here that I've moved, which are my additional ones that I've got to play with, I've added in. Some of them are looking really good, like this tray here, so they'll probably end up in the main display. So just a little update on the sempervivums. It's been 2 weeks and they are doing really well. I'm quite impressed. So as you can see, not all of them have survived. I think that was kind of inevitable because some of them had already started to kind of die off. I do need to be careful though, because you'll notice the soil is really wet at the moment, so I'm not going to water them for a little bit. But the ones in the trays are doing really well. Look at those. I really like these ones with like the red tips. They're really cool. I like these purpley ones too, they're good. And then these ones even, we can see even the one in there, it's growing, so that's really cool. But again, I would think I'm going to just not water them for a little bit. Probably been overwatering them. A couple of them, unfortunately, you see like that one has died. But for the most part, actually, they're doing really, really well. And I think
I'll give them probably a few more weeks just to really establish themselves and grow a little bit more. Unfortunately, this one died. But to give them a bit more time, and then I will see how they do, and then I will try and do some other planting. I think maybe I'll do another container where I try out a bit of a miniature rockery. I think that's what my idea is. Anyway, I'll just do some close-up footage of some of them. Thank you for watching.